A few weeks ago, I made a video about my fear of being 80 years old and looking back at my life and regretting the way I lived it. So I've consciously decided that I'm no longer wasting my time or taking it for granted. This isn't about hustle culture. It's about building a life that I look back on and I'm proud of, but I actually enjoy building it. The years will pass whether you spend your time convincing yourself out of your goals or just going for them. Because the truth is, the world moves on. Time will pass whether you sit here and procrastinate on your goals or go out and actually achieve them. This is going to sound so harsh, but once you realize time is a currency, you start spending it wisely. Not only what you do with it, but who you give it to. So these are my personal standards for myself, and honestly, advice that I've had to give myself to make sure I don't waste the season of my life that I'm currently in. And I definitely want the same for you guys. Step 1. Go for your goals. Even if you fail, you literally owe it to yourself to try. Do you know how many people look like they're failing for years until they actually succeed? What if you're one of those people? What if you look like you're failing now, but you're just early? The only thing that's guaranteed is that if you do quit now, you will never know if that was meant to be you. You owe it to yourself to actually care about your goals. I think a lot of people underestimate how much regret comes from not trying more than it does from failing. Because yes, failing hurts at first, but wondering what if and never trying definitely hurts more in the long term. And I have to be honest with myself. I used to think, oh, I'm afraid to fail, but that wasn't really true. I don't actually have an issue with failing in private. It was just failing in public that scared me. I had to be honest and admit that my true fear was what other people would think if I failed or what they would say. And so I stopped saying, I'm afraid of failure. I'm afraid of appearing like a failure to others. But that just brings me back to what I said earlier. How many people look like they're failing until they weren't? Like, looking like a failure while trying something new and still building is literally the entry price for getting good at something. And I also remind myself there are so many things that I've succeeded at that I once thought I couldn't. And so I don't let the fear define me, and instead I focus on the things I've already achieved to build up my self-confidence. Number 2, stop forcing a timeline. This is so important. I realize that most times a situation is simply neutral or even positive, but the moment you compare yourself or your journey to somebody else's, it instantly becomes negative. Nothing about the situation changed except the comparison. For example, you could be on a fitness journey. You could be making progress and being consistent, but the second you compare yourself to somebody else's physique, you've robbed the joy from your own journey, and that is a waste of your time. Number 3, stop calling the day off after X o'clock. I love a good morning routine. Over the years, I've crafted a beautiful, wholesome morning routine that actually works for me. But if there's a day where I oversleep or don't do that routine, I used to let it ruin my mood. It turns into a domino effect. A bad 5 minutes, a bad morning, a bad mindset, a bad day, just spent focusing on what's wrong. And now I've just wasted that day of all its blessings I had to offer. And I realized I was letting one moment, especially in the morning, determine my whole day. Instead of letting my mood determine my actions, I realized that when I wake up and I feel a bit off and I don't have the time to do the whole grounding morning routine, I have to recognize that and I have to consciously choose my thoughts to be more positive and more hopeful. And this habit of self-awareness and emotional regulation has become easier the more and more I practice it. Most times, the most productive thing you can do is change your mindset before you do anything else. And side note, if you feel like you've wasted your morning, I have friends that literally only get up at 2 p.m. and study all the way to 2 a.m. and they're doing their masters and exams, and that's just what works for them. I've also had days where my routine has completely gone off, but I've had better days than I could have ever planned for. So be adaptable, be hopeful, and don't write off an entire day just because of a bad morning or a bad start. And again, this isn't about productivity or hustling. It's just not allowing one emotion to hijack your whole day. Number 4, I think we're in number 4. Number 4, keep your word to yourself. This one is huge. And honestly, if you're not doing it, it's exhausting mentally and emotionally. Stop negotiating with the high version of yourself that made the plan and just stick to it. That constant internal debate drains you of so much energy and wastes so much time. Most of the time, you already know what's good for you, and your higher self that made those plans definitely had your best interests at heart. The sooner you stop breaking promises to yourself, the sooner you get things done, you respect yourself more, and that's how you build self-confidence. You develop stronger self-respect and a higher opinion of yourself. Whereas every time you break a promise to yourself, you quietly teach yourself not to trust you. Number 5, date yourself. If you don't value your own company, how can you expect somebody else to? Actually get to know yourself as if you were getting to know somebody else. Ask yourself the questions you'd ask someone on a date. What are your goals? What are your fears? What excites you? What drains you? What do you actually care about? At every age, we're different versions of ourselves. Our beliefs, our priorities, our fears, and our goals are always changing. So never stop understanding yourself, because 18-year-old you is very different to 25-year-old you. And you will never get to meet that version of you again. A habit I'm so grateful to my younger self for is journaling. I've journaled in intense detail deeply for years. My fears, my joys, my different seasons, about every person that was in different seasons of my life. So I literally have books of my thoughts as 18-year-old Aarti, 21-year-old Aarti, and 25-year-old Aarti now. Reading back on those memories reminds me of all the things that I worried about have passed. A lot of people say, oh, they want to find themselves, but not enough people sit down long enough to do that. So yeah, I'm truly so grateful for the time that I invested in getting to know myself, and I'll definitely be continuing journaling. Number 6, don't waste your time worrying about the wrong people's opinion. I don't think anybody's reached 80 years old and wish they cared more about what their colleagues thought of them in their 20s or what people in school thought about them. That perspective really grounds me when I start overthinking and worrying about the wrong people. If someone doesn't know your heart, aka the most important thing about you, then they definitely don't get to have a valid opinion about you. Number 7, don't waste your time reaching goals that won't make you happy. What I mean is, don't waste your time chasing goals, the career, the car, the house, without doing any inner work. Because without inner work, no achievement ever feels enough. I have a whole video on emotional intelligence coming up, so I won't go too deep into this, but I once read a quote that really stuck with me. Everything that we're seeking externally is just an excuse for what we want to feel internally. For example, a big house can be emotional security, and chasing holidays could be escaping your life. It isn't all bad. We all want things, but I've just had to be aware of why I want them, and I've just tried to affirm those feelings to myself first. I don't think having goals are the problem. I love goals, but I think unconscious goals are. And honestly, I also think about all the time I spent chasing my goals and blah blah blah, instead of spending time with God and getting to know God. And I think for me, building that relationship with God has been so key in giving me that unshakable mindset despite the chaos that's happening externally. And knowing God has made me feel more loved and held in a way that no achievement ever could. Last one, number 8, a light-hearted fun one because 8 is my lucky number. Try new things. I honestly think last year I could have tried more things, but that's definitely something that I want to do more of, so I don't regret my life. I feel like trying new things in life isn't about like productivity or achievement. It's actually just about experiences and memories. And I think that's the kind of thing that when we get older, we're going to look back and think, oh, I'm so happy I did that and I tried that and I have that memory and XYZ without regret. It's just for the experience, and that itself is never going to be a waste of time. And that brings us to the end of the video. I'd love to know any thoughts you guys have, and I wait to see you in my next video. Bye.